Thanks, guys. You don't have a clue who I am, do you? And that's okay. You're going to think I'm crazy when I leave here, and that's okay too. At the end of the day, I'm a person that sat in the chairs just like you folks did. I'll share a little bit as we go along my path to what I'm doing right now, which I'm not even sure what it is anymore. I don't know if it's performance training. I don't know if it's strength and conditioning. I don't know if it's physical therapy. I don't know if it's science. I don't know if it's practice. I don't know if it's art. But it's really cool, and I'm really damn protective of it. And I don't want anybody in my field that is apathetic about it. And I hope I got your attention with that, because it's a really cool space, and it's a space that's exploding. It's a space that is non-defined. It doesn't have boundaries right now. It's got more gray area than it does black and white. Isn't that exciting? And you guys are at the cusp of that. Some of you want to be therapists, some of you want to be athletic trainers, some of you want to be researchers, some of you might want my job. You better be really dang good if you want my job, because I don't want to give it up. All right? But it's exciting. It really is an exciting field, and I'm happy to be here, and thanks to Doc Greenwood. Doc's one of those guys that's fighting that good fight, guys. If you want to know what's out there, he's the one that's fighting the good fight, and there's few of them out there, and he's one of them. So make sure that you add him to your network of folks that you stay in contact with. He's going to be a big resource for you as a person and as a colleague later on in life. So thanks again, guys, for having me and for taking time out of your day. I've got an hour or 50 minutes here, something like that. I've got 4 hours worth of content. So there's no way I'm going to get through everything. I'm going to fly at 30,000 feet, and I'm going to fly really fast. There's going to be some places that I dive down and get in the muck a little bit, and then I'm going to jump back at 30,000 feet. So just know that going in, all right? Some of you are going to want more. I want to go into more detail on that, or I want to talk more about this, and we'll have time at the end for that. But humor me a little bit and know that I got a lot of stuff I want to expose you to really, really quickly. I don't have my clicker, so I'm going to go back and forth here a lot. I've got a couple of different presentations that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to try to fuse them together. But at the end of the day, I want this to be a very informal thing. I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk about you. And I want you guys, you're going to start to insert yourself in some of these slides. You're going to start to see some of the lights go off on what your future can be when you look at some of the things that we're into as a company and as a profession going forward. And I hope that we walk away that you feel excited, number one, that you're empowered, number two, and that you're hugely challenged, number three. And I really hope those are the three learning objectives I hope that you guys gain from this. If nothing else, I'll try to be entertaining as well. All right, so thanks again. I'm Lance, and I work at Michael Johnson Performance Center. This is my first slide of every presentation I ever do, and it's the hammer and the nail analogy, right? And you guys are learning a lot about tools to be using out in the field of whatever it is that you're doing. And some of you guys might be engineers, I don't know. At the end of the day, though, the more of these tools you have, the better chance you have of avoiding the hammer and the nail analogy. You guys familiar with hammer and nail analogy? If all you have is a hammer, everything starts looking like a what? A nail, right? The opposite of that is true, though. If you fill your toolbox up with a bunch of tools that you don't know how to use, and all you know how to do is hammer in nails, guess what all your tools start looking like? Hammers. Strength coaches. Strength doesn't cure everything. Okay? That's a hammer. Well, they're injured. I'll use strength. They need more mobility. They need strength. They need to be faster. Strength. That's a hammer. And the hammer's very good to nail nails in, right? The physical therapist in me, I went out and learned all these great things, right? These little exposures on all these different things. And now I walk into a room, and if I'm a physical therapist and I don't know really how to use those tools very well, all of a sudden I'm starting to use weird tools for odd jobs. So I'm using a screwdriver to try to hammer a nail in when strength was the answer. And so it's a cool slide, and it really puts everything in perspective for us that, guys, we don't know what we don't know, and we're constantly trying to improve our toolbox, but we also need to be really, really good at the tools that we get. Okay? We really got to be good at the tools. And so this is a cool slide, and if nothing else, I could end it right there. That's an epiphany moment for me some 23 years ago when I jumped into this field. References, I don't have a big list of scientific references. Here's my references. 20 years of experience in this field doing this. My staff that works with me today at MJP has 150 years combined experience. That's a lot of mistakes. That's how we learned. We learned from our mistakes, and we were smart enough to learn when we made mistakes. That's the number of training sessions that I've been responsible for personally. 225,000. Over 5,000 unique athletes in my database that I've worked with. Okay? 60% and 30%. 60% of the athlete population that I work with right now is under the age of 18. That's the future of our performance training field. 30% of the athletes that I train have a choice to come to me, and they keep coming back over and over and over again. They're not made to train like in the college setting in baseball, right? They have to come see you, don't they? They ain't got a choice. In my profession, they have a choice. They have to pay money to come see me. Do your baseball kids have to pay money to come see you? They have to come see you, don't they? So guess what that forces me to do? I have to be really dadgum good at my job, or I go out of business. Okay? How do I stay in business? I drive a result. And so that's my references. That's a lot of training sessions, and I'm still in business, and I'm still making mistakes every day. Okay? Do I have science to back up what absolutely I do. In some cases, not in all cases. Okay? What am I going to talk about? Performance training. Guys, in my field, if you're a science-driven person, you're wonderful. It's a great space to be in. If you're an artist, it's also a great space to be in. Okay? This is a true mixture of science and art. It truly is. And those that are the best at this profession, the ones that are out there on the day-to-day grind, know how to balance those two out. The ones that just think it's art, that just think it's rah-rah, let's get people going, all right? You've been around those people, are losing out. The guys that are the science nerds, that are in the lab all the time trying to figure out the analytics and the algorithms to figure out how to, those guys are losing out. When those two people begin to bring their strengths together, we all of a sudden win. And that's truly what this profession is growing towards. Learning objectives, that's up to you. I don't care what you learn out of this. I've got my objectives to make sure that I learn something from you guys before I leave. We're going to talk a lot about innovation. Great statement here. If it isn't broken, break it. Okay? If it isn't broken, break it. One of my major sponsors is Nike, and they are genius at innovation. We need innovators in our field. We've got to stop doing the same things and trying to do the same things better and better and better. We've got to get out of that mindset. And some of you guys in this room are going to be the innovators in the next millennium in our profession, and you got to break stuff to do it. Okay? And I've spent the better part of 20 years of my life trying to do what we've always been doing better. And gosh, I need innovative minds around me. Okay? And you guys are sit in the perfect seats to be that person. Some of our ethos at MJP, and MJP is a performance training center in McKinney, Texas. Raise your hand if you've heard of us. Okay, so performance training, have you heard of the term performance training? Yeah, and probably everybody thinks that is a different term, different things to different people, but we're in McKinney. We're an international company now. We have facilities in 3 different countries. We have a facility in McKinney, that's our headquarters. That's Michael Johnson. Anybody know who Michael Johnson is? Some of you know. Not Michael Jackson, not Michael Jordan. Michael Johnson, gold shoes guy. Would still be the fastest person in the world in the 200 meters if he wouldn't have had such a horrible start in that race right there. But certainly we all remember the finish, right? I mean, it still gives me goosebumps. It was an unbelievable feat of human performance. And it was his dream to create a center that would provide some of the benefits that he had as a high school collegiate athlete and as an Olympic athlete and ultimately an icon in the field. He wanted to make sure and provide the young athletes of North Texas at that time some of the same resources that he had to realize their ultimate potential, regardless of what level of expertise they wanted to get to. We have elites, we have sub-elites, we have folks like Michael, we have folks that will never see a track. They'll never be on the A-team track team. All they want to do is get better, and that's what our facility was built for. Now with 3 countries, we're going to be in 4 more by the end of 2014. I leave next week to go down to Australian Institute for Sport. We're going to do a partnership with them. They want some of this. What is this? I don't know, but they're sciencey guys. They're very sciencey guys. I just got back from Trinidad and Tobago. They don't care about the science, they just care about the practice. We've got a facility in the UK at St. George's Park, the FA Center of Excellence. You guys know what the sport of soccer is? Raise your hand if you know what soccer is. All right, yeah, okay. It's a pretty big deal. Maybe not here in Texas, but soccer's a big deal. So we've got a facility full-time there as well. We've got coaches in China. We'll have a facility in Brazil, Rome, Malta, Puerto Rico, all by the end of 2014. And they all want the same thing. They want results. They want to improve athleticism for their sport, and that's what we're all about as a company. That's Michael. His vision, give every athlete, regardless of level of competition, not just the elite, but every athlete across the full age spectrum, every possibility to realize their fullest potential. Okay? Who do we train? God, we train the gamut. We've got professional athletes. Yeah, boy, everybody in this field says, I want to train professionally elite athletes. Those people are a dime a dozen. So I put the people up on the top there, the Cowboys, the Stars, FC Dallas. Anybody know who this is right here? This emblem right here? Manchester United. Yeah, some of you guys are like, I don't have any idea. That's the biggest sports brand in the world. Combine the Yankees and the Dallas Cowboys and even Texas A&M. And they even a popcorn fart compared to these guys internationally. Okay, that is a big deal. These are folks that have sought us out as a company to try to help them by exporting our expertise to them in developing athletes. So it's a really cool space, and I'm so blessed to have the opportunity to work with these folks. The cool thing is, they're not just asking me to come in and help them. They're asking me to synergize with them, to learn from them, to have this sort of symbiotic relationship with them. And that's unique in the space. Most folks in my profession will step in and say, this is the way it's done. The way we step in is, how are you doing it? Seek first to understand before being understood. Anybody read that book? That's critical in this field. And too often times in our field, we like to tell everybody about what we do instead of turning that off and listening. A sage coach, one of my mentors, talked about the ratio of listening and talking. How many input devices do you guys have? 2 ears? You have 2 nostrils, right? And you have 2 eyes? That's a lot of input. How much output do you have? 1 output device right here, right? Maybe 2 if it's nonverbal, but for the most part we have 1 output device and about 6 input devices. If you want to be good in this profession, use them in that ratio. How do we have a true macrocycle of training across all sports. So it's not just soccer and football and ice hockey. It's golf, it's tennis, it's ballet. It's Williams Formula One pit crew. And this is the macrocycle of when those folks come to see us. And so at any point in time during the year, you can identify at what age and what sport those folks are at MJP training, or at which point we're off-site training them at their facilities. So we have a true macrocycle built out across multiple sports. Unfortunately, we don't get to train just one sport at a time. Fortunately, we don't get to train just one sport at one time. So that forces our hand to really take a step back and work on the raw ingredients for athleticism. The term sport-specific training is a lie. The only thing sport-specific about training is the sport itself. And we've learned that the hard way. I've come full circle with that. Sport relevant is about as close as we can get when it comes to the performance training industry, providing raw ingredients for these athletes that are relevant to their sport. But the only thing specific about a baseball player tonight hitting a fastball is the baseball player hitting a fastball. That's the only sport-specific training that exists. And guys, I wouldn't have said that to you 10 years ago. Okay, it's evolutionary, and it's revolutionary as well. But that's who we train. Facilities. That's how long I'm going to spend on facilities. We've got the best facilities in the world, bar none. It's not about the facilities. We've got the reason Michael gives me every facility known to man, the unbelievable technology that we have, the complete HydroWorks suite that we have. You know why he does that? So I don't have an excuse not to get a result. What do you need to get a result, Lance? Well, I'd like to have this. No, what do you need? Well, what would you like to have? Is that all you need? Okay, great. Now drive a result. If I don't drive a result, I can't go back and say, well, I didn't have the right equipment. All right? That's why he gives me that equipment. And he spends huge sums of money to make sure that we stay on that front edge or that leading edge of science and technology and practice in the space of equipment. But that's where it ends. You guys are the magicians. You guys are the magic. I've never met a medicine ball that has magic pixie dust on it, that you can just rub the medicine ball on yourself and all of a sudden you get more powerful, no matter how pretty the medicine ball is. So you guys end up being the magicians. You end up being the carpenters, and they'll just become your tools. Okay? And you can do it. The better you are at this profession, you can do it with sticks and bricks and beat the guy next to you that has better facilities. And it's something I wake up with nightmares every night. I've got the best facilities in the world, and I sit up in the middle of the night thinking, there's somebody out there that is doing it with sticks and bricks better than I'm doing it with the Cadillacs that I'm driving every day. I got to get back to work. I got to turn back in. I got to plug back into this deal. I got to press in, turn on again. Our philosophy, as I said, any athlete, any sport can get better. Michael says it all the time. Can we make you fast? No. I can't make you fast, my friend. What I can do is I can help you be faster. Okay? So managing expectations up front. People walk in the door all the time and they say, well, where am I at Michael John's Performance? This is where I'm going to come to get fast. Absolutely not. This is where I'm going to come to be great. No. We're going to help you be better, help you improve. That's the overall philosophy. The methodology, and this is that 30,000 feet stuff. Age specific. Age specific, floating to sport relevant. We have a long-term development process that I'm going to share with you. A long-term development process going back to the basics. And I'm going to share it with you because you're going to think, man, that's really cutting edge. And it's really not. It's really old school. That's just kind of coming back in vogue internationally. Hadn't hit the States yet. It'll be another 10 years, and it'll be over here. Because in the States, our development model is the cream will rise to the top, and we'll just screw up the rest because we'll have plenty to fill in the back. That's how we work it here in the States. And we're pretty blessed because we got a bunch of good athletes, and we got a bunch of kids, and we don't even worry about the trash. We just look at the ones that spike up through the outlier crowd, right? Training is learning and doing. It's not working out. We're not talking fitness at our facility. You must have fitness before performance. So if you're coming to see us looking for fitness, you've come to the wrong spot. You need to take care of that before you even see us. And if you're not healthy, you can't be fit. So health precedes fitness, precedes performance. But make no mistake, performance training is not performance working out. And until you can understand the difference, you're going to struggle in my field. Okay? Somebody asks me all the time, what's your method? What do you guys do over there? Do you do kettlebells? Do you do Swiss ball stuff? Do you do Olympic lifts? Yeah. What do you like? If it's ethical, effective, and efficient, it will be included in our progressions. If you can't say yes to all three of those things, when you pull the filter through something you bring to me, it doesn't make it to our training floor. Okay? Ethical, effective, and efficient. Think of all the things out there that are ethical and effective. Some of those things you see come out of one-on-one training in laboratory settings. Very ethical, very effective. But now I've got 23 athletes and I've got 30 minutes to get them better. Ready? Go. It quickly answers the logistics question you see on the UPS commercial, right? Logistics. Can your reality set in now? Can you get 80% return on 80% of those guys in 30 minutes with that ethical and effective thing that you're going to throw at them as a modality? If the answer is no, it's not a part of our system. It just doesn't work. There's also a lot of things that are very effective and very efficient that aren't very ethical in our sports, right? We could name a few right off the top of our heads, yeah? Okay. So again, this is the filter. So what do you guys do? We do things that are ethical, effective, and efficient. We have a system by which we can sort those things. And I encourage each of you to begin to develop your own system. Raise your hand if you want to be a strength conditioning coach. Yeah? Great. Raise your hand if you want to be a therapist, a physical therapist. Great. I want to be a researcher. Good. I want to be a, what else? What else is out there? Doesn't matter. Each of you need to develop your own system. Your ability to grate through the material that you're getting, from Doc Greenwood or other lectures that you go, or the YouTube, or whatever that is you're doing. You need to have a system by which you can pull through and filter out that information and begin to slot it into your system so that you can use it. Otherwise, you're going to be a pendulum swinger like I was early in my career. I'll go to a course on blah, and the next day I'm in the clinic as a therapist, guess what? Everybody's getting blah because I just got fired up by this course, and so now I'm looking. I went to this chondromalacia patella course, and now I'm looking around for chondromalacia patella. Yeah, I think that could be, no, that's something completely different because I don't have a system by which to put those pieces and bits from that symposium about chondromalacia patella into my system. I don't have one. Now everything starts to look like that. Everything starts looking like a what? Like a nail, right? Because I just got really fired up about this hammer that I just given at this symposium. As young guys and gals in this profession, it's important early on to start to develop that system, that ability to organize your thoughts. And this is the system by which we do it. Okay? And that's our system. Quick snapshot. Boom, you missed it. You missed it. I'll come back and talk about it in a little bit. Okay? The overall process, how does this work? When athletes come see us, there's kind of a mixture of treating, training, tweaking, retesting, training, tweaking. It's an amalgam of sports medicine, exercise physiology, strength conditioning, nutritional physiology, bioenergetics, sports psychology, neuroscience. It's an amalgam of those things. Okay, and it truly involves this cyclical thing where we test things. We test things to guide our training. So we use research-based methods. We track everything. We measure everything. This is an example of some functional movement screening. You guys have heard of the functional movement screen, yeah? Raise your hand if you've heard of FMS. It's been around since about 1993, but it wasn't called that back in the early days. That's a system by which therapists used to do quarter screening on folks. Now they got a name for it, and they got a system that you as strength coaches begin to use now to identify movement patterns. Anybody recognize this athlete right here? Distance runners in the house? Anybody know who the name Mo Farah is? 10,000 meter gold medalist in this year's Olympics? Yeah? No? Still nobody? Distance running's not as big in College Station as it is across the world either. Pretty big time guy right there. He's doing the functional movement screen right there. He's doing an overhead squat. And Mo's the best of the best of the best. That's another guy by the name of Galen Rupp. Anybody remember that name? Okay. These guys are putting 130 miles a week in on training during the course of this period of time. This is 6 months before the London Olympic Games. And Mo Farah is looking at his movement screen. He's already the best in the world, and he's looking at his movement screen. This is the MS-DOS, the operating system by which he runs off of. This is one of the little things that we can look in and see if there's any defrag that needs to happen to make him more efficient. And if you look to the trained eye, you can see a little weight shift there. You see that little asymmetrical weight shift there? Doesn't seem like a big deal, does it? When he's looking for 0.01% improvement in efficiency, that could be a huge deal. In the NFL, as an example, they're using the functional movement screen now, which comes from physical therapy. The NFL is using this to screen out players for possible injury incidents. If you score less than a certain number on this functional movement screen, you have an 11 times higher likelihood of being on the injured reserve in the National Football League. You think that's not a big deal for those people spending that kind of money on players? It's a huge deal, right? It's a job deal. Yeah, we want that player. Oh, his functional movement screen was 13. He had 2 asymmetries. He's got about a 13 times higher likelihood of being on the injured reserve. Do you still want to sign that guy to that big contract? Okay, pretty cool stuff. Here's a pre and a post. That's a high-level high jumper right there, Olympic caliber. And she's already jumping Olympic caliber heights at this spot right here. And this is her again after some corrective exercises. What is going on here? Well, the physical therapy side of me says, oh, we got all this scapular dyskinesia going. We've also got some of this lumbopelvic rotational instability. We've got a lack of trunk and torso control. Okay? The basics in the room will say, well, her core is no good. You better identify what core is these days, guys. If you're coming out of these professions saying the word core, that's a slang term. Okay? You'll be gutted in the real world if you walk out of these classrooms talking about core and don't know what you're talking about. That used to be a term we could throw around as personal trainers and therapists, and it was just kind of this catch-all sort of, ooh, he's smart, he's talking about core. No more. No more. Okay? This is Jody Williams, one of the elite sprinters out of the UK. Now we're just doing a vertical jump, right? That's a big deal. If you just watch her jump, that's a pretty good counter movement jump with no armors right there. It's pretty good. With this accelerometer, though, hooked on her hip, is starting to tell me, though, she's got a hole in the top of this jump. Her time to peak force production can be shrunk. We can improve this jump and not even change how high she jumps. We're so hung up on 30-inch vertical. How fast did she get to 30 inches? Maybe we should start thinking about that. This is ahead of the science, guys. There is no science on this. None. The only science I have is 20 years, and now the last 10 years going back and checking my data. And we're going back and using some of this on our fastest athletes and finding out, you know what? The Mike Wallaces of the world, the Marquise Goodwins of the world. Why is it that they're so fast? Well, one of the reasons is their time to peak force curve is straight up and down like this. That's one of the commonalities with those athletes. Yet they both jump the same height, and this one's faster than this one. This is just one of those pieces of data that we're pulling back and saying, wow, if that's a differentiator to speed, what are you thinking? How can I what? How can I train that, right? I hope you're thinking about that, strength coaches, because that's what your job is, to get them faster, right? And I can train that. I can train that peak. Without this interlace of this technology, I'd never see it. So it's really a cool space. Training plans. We have the ability now to coach folks. So after we've treated them, we've trained them, we can either train them on-site or we can train them remotely. We're training 3 soccer academies now across the continents. We've got one in Greece, I've got one in Brazil, and I got one in China. And I've never seen those athletes before. There's over 2,000 Chinese athletes that I'm training right now that I've never met. That's powerful, right? That's the ability to leverage technology to bring your expertise, to export your expertise. And you tech people, how many of you guys like techie stuff? That's my deal. Come on, nobody like, yeah, exactly. I need you guys.
I think you're saying Texas Tech.
Texas Tech, no, like technology, like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? Our field needs you. Don't lose that. We need to embrace you. Some of our kids come to training sessions with their iPhones, and the first thing our coaches say is what? What do you tell your athletes? Put your phones down. Let's get some work in. You can try that game all you want, guys. And I'm old school too. You don't need your phone to train. You know what I'm thinking? Innovation? Bring your phone. I got to figure out how to leverage that phone to get them better. How am I going to do that? Technology. Maybe it's a dashboard that you have that interlaces with some of the monitors you guys got in your new weight room here. We got to be innovative like that, gang. We got to think like that, because that's the next generation of athlete and patient and subjects for your research that we're going to be dealing with. Okay? This is why we do what we do. So hopefully some of these videos will loop up and I'll turn them on. If you listen, this is a remote session with Galen Rupp, and this is him down at the bottom corner here. Okay? This is him sending me a video of himself. This is a video of him when we were evaluating him at MJP, Texas. So this is him in Oregon. He's silver medalist in the 10,000 meter, by the way. Anybody heard of Galen? No?
He's not only getting it in hip flexion on the front side.
And I'm talking to his coach,
He's getting
Alberto Salazar. Anybody heard of that name?
on the back.
Yeah, we've heard of Alberto Salazar. Crazy person. He's crazy. He's crazy in a great way. He came to me with Galen and he said, Galen is going to be the next gold medalist in the 10,000 meters in London. This was 4 years before that. And he said, he needs to be faster. I want you to train him like a sprinter for 3 years. He's a distance runner, Alberto. No, no, no. Don't think of him like that, Lance. Think of him like a sprinter, because the biggest problem he has is not endurance. It's speed.
Hip flexion on the front side.
Crazy thinking, right? That's nuts. We should be training him what? Sport
On the back side.
specific. More miles, Alberto, more miles. And I'm standing there telling more miles, and Alberto's saying, no, you're not hearing me. You're missing it.
The other thing you'll notice
I need him to be faster. I need him to be more what? Athletic for his sport.
versus 87.
What was the result? He did something no U.S. distance runner has done in eons.
If we pull
A big deal. Do I take credit for it? No. Alberto Salazar gets the credit. All I did was give him some raw ingredients, because I know what fast people do. I know what sprinters do. Sprinters, when they run, they gravitate to this side. Distance runners, more miles, more miles, more miles. You know where you gravitate to? This way. You gravitate to more of a walking style.
The other thing you'll notice is the hips.
Where do we want to gravitate, Galen?
8 degrees now.
Asafa Powell, Usain Bolt. You think I'm crazy? I did too. But it worked. It's crazy.
Toe-up position where he
It was crazy. Let's sacrifice some of that endurance training for some of this speed training for a 10,000 meter runner.
see where he's getting it. He's
Okay.
not only getting it in hip flexion.
Pretty cool, right? Can you tell I kind of get excited about this field? You feel me a little bit? Do I get an amen or anything? Okay. Hope some of you are feeling me. And this is why we do what we do at the end of the day, to drive a result like this. Okay, this is an athlete from Manchester United Soccer. And this is another athlete from Manchester United Soccer. Which athlete do you want to suit up at striker for you tonight? The one in the blue shorts or the one in the red shirt? Huh? I want the faster one. Do you want the faster one if they're the same skill level? I do too. It's the same athlete. That's the same dude. That's the same dude after 4 weeks of training. No tricked up video. This goes back to the manager. You told me he needed to be faster for his position, coach. That was the limiting factor to him being great in the English Premier League. Okay? He's now a full step and a half faster in 10 meters. Is that good enough? That's our job. My job is not to get him to score more goals in the English Premier League. Not my job. That's Sir Alex Ferguson's job. When he gets this raw ingredient back, he said that's the difference maker. Here, Sir Alex, here he is. Well, he still can't make it. That ain't, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's step back a minute. You told me that was what it took. That was the raw ingredient I was supposed to give you. And too often times, I'm afraid in our profession, we step ahead of that. That our job is to make him score more goals in the English Premier League as a striker. That's sport-specific role. My job, sport relevant. Raw ingredients, let the sport coach take the credit and bake the cake. I'm here to provide those raw ingredients, the flour, the eggs, and the sugar. Okay? My innovation slide. That's a pretty innovative slide right there. You go, that's not trick photography, by the way. Can you guys see that? Can you see what's going on there? Percolate on that one a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to switch gears on you, hopefully, to talk a little bit about how we're doing as a profession. Okay. Any questions so far? Any quick comments? So let's see if this video is going to run. So this is an old video. This is like ancient. It's almost embarrassing for me to show you this. This is about 7 years old now. This was year one of our of our training center in McKinney, and I see some horrible stuff that I want to pull my hair out on because I'm not doing any of this stuff anymore. I also see some good stuff that I want to go back to, but it'll take you about 6 minutes to watch this, and hopefully it gives you an idea of some of the things that have been going on. If I can get the audio to go, let's see if we can get this audio to go.
In life performance is the same for any athlete at any level, because it starts with looking at the athlete. The training philosophy here follows a philosophy that's proven successful that I developed when I was competing as an athlete. We're teaching them about their bodies. We're teaching them how to be better athletes.
Michael always talks about training smart, and people come from different backgrounds about their philosophy on training. And we try to whittle it down to get them to understand that there's a certain way of training that will emphasize physical development and growth. And it may not be what you've always been taught, but we try to whittle it down and try to show them what the smarter ways of training are.
You know, the facility is nice, it's flashy, it looks good, but the first 5 minutes I spent with Lance Walker are what really brought me into this place. Him teaching me his strategies on performance, conditioning, speed training, explosive power. For my position, it's not as much about the 40 and the straightaway speed as it is just explosive power and how to get that pop off the line and how to get your hips faster and more flexible.
I heard a lot of great things about this place. My coaches and baseball team have said nothing but successful things about this organization here.
We came out here, walked through the facility, and my son's eyes just got bigger, and I said, you know what, this is what we got to do.
I'm here because I want to increase my game. I want to become better at my sport. They work me hard, and I feel like I'm really improving. I go out on the soccer field, and girls that used to outrun me, I'm actually keeping up with, if not beating them, and so I can get to the ball quicker and stronger on the ball, and I feel like it's really improving my game. I'm here to increase my speed and to get better at my sport.
Not really knowing what to think. I just kind of came in with an open mind and knowing that these people are going to make me better. Because
So you get the idea, right? You saw parents, you saw kids. If I keep throwing that video up there, you'd see folks from the NHL, from the NFL, the NBA, PGA golf. You'll see them from all over, and they're all talking about the same thing. They're talking about raw ingredients for their sport. And so that's the folks that come to us for performance training. Now, interestingly enough, this term performance training means a lot of things to a lot of different people. And so this is where I'm going to fly pretty fast, but you need to know your history in this field, because everybody in this room touches performance training. Researchers, therapists, athletic trainers, strength conditioning coaches, even you tech people touch performance training. What is performance training? Where you got to look at your roots, where this thing came from. This idea that we're going to go out and do strength training and metabolism training and nutrition and biomechanics and all these different fields, how they started to come together. You guys as students, sometimes, and I'm the same way as an older student, I spent 10 plus years in higher education, okay? 10 plus, 3 different degrees, master's here, physical therapy degree here, blah, 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 blah. And what I didn't do is I didn't learn about the people that paved the way for me to have a profession right now. And that was a major mistake on my part, because there's so much to learn from these names. Write some of those names down. If you don't recognize at least 3 of those names up there, you're sitting where I was. And it's going to take you 10 years to start to try to understand where some of this stuff comes from. These are the pioneers. These are the instigators of change, the change agents in our profession. Okay? Yesus and Bompa, Sandow and Kajewski, Selye and Henry, even all the way back to Ling. Do some research on that. You're going to find some really cool roots of these guys that did the frontier work for those of us that are making a career in performance training. Most of them aren't from the United States, unfortunately, either, right? Okay? If you look at the overall time lapse of what's happened, this all started, our profession started in the late 1800s. And it started out as a sort of an ancient sort of performance training where it was basically physical therapy and strength coaching, and it was all together. It was all one big unit. And what happened is they started to kind of diverge. Okay, and we had this strength conditioning, Olympic training sort of thing on the top line here, and then we had sports medicine on the bottom. And if you go through the timeline of what's happened in those two professions, and those of you that are therapists or want to become therapists, understanding this is very important, and you may learn this in PT school if you haven't already. Those of us in the strength conditioning community, performance training community, understands a little bit of some of this because we're actually going back and revisiting some of this as new. Wow, that stuff's really new. Medicine ball training, that's really new. Functional training, that's really new. No, it's not. It's from the 1900s, early 1800s. But to understand how these two diverged, and now most recently in the performance training injury cycle of things, they're coming back together again. So sports medicine is starting to come back together with strength conditioning, and that's really where this term performance training has come out of, is from the divergence and then convergence of these two professions. The proliferation of sports medicine and the athletic trainer. I mean, that's recent history, guys. That's recent history, and you'll be way ahead of the curve when you get out there if you understand how these things happened. And I hated history. How many of you guys hate it? I hate history. I completely checked out of history when I was in college, completely. How does this profession evolve? This is how it evolves. We have a status quo of things that we all accept. This is the way we're going to do things, all right? And then we involve foreign elements. We throw a wrench in the engine. What does the wrench in the engine do? It causes chaos. Who throws wrenches in the engine? Innovators, revolutionaries. Okay. Who starts revolutions? From your history. Who started all the great revolutions that changed the world for us? Was it the kings? Was it the presidents? Mm-mm. It was the peasants. It was the newbies. It was the underlings, if you will. Us. We start revolutions. We throw things into the engine to cause chaos. And what does chaos do? Makes us all very uncomfortable, doesn't it? Makes me uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable, right? You know what else is uncomfortable? Heavy squats are uncomfortable for me, right? Do heavy squats make me stronger? Yeah, but boy, it's really uncomfortable. I really want to get stronger, but I don't want to get too uncomfortable. Okay, that's apathy. I want greatness. I want for that, but I'm not really ready to secure myself enough to give up what it takes to become great. But I want great. I deserve great. Do you? Okay. What's the offset from good to great? It's about that much, guys. It's about that much. But that much is dadgum uncomfortable. It is really uncomfortable. Okay? But that's what happens. And then we have people that are smart enough to begin to integrate this chaos into existing status quo. And then ultimately, we come all the way around. We have these new adopters that all of a sudden, gosh, athletic trainers, sports physical therapists, sports conditioning, performance training. That's how these things come about. Okay? That's how the sports physical therapy section came about in the world of physical therapy. It came about because somebody started throwing foreign elements at status quo. And those people were called crazy people. You know who else was crazy? Steve Jobs, crazy person. Albert Einstein, crazy person. Google that. It's a YouTube video, the Apple commercial, 1994. I think it's called Innovation. And they have a video of all these crazy people. Gandhi, Bob Dylan, crazy people. Okay? Those are the people that can do this. And they do this very, very well. Those people are in this room too. They need to be. They need to be. So there was therapists that were change agents. You got to know these names. Raise your hand if you recognize some of those names. You need to know those names. Therapists in the room, you guys want to be therapists, you need to know those three names. Boom, boom, boom. Those are change agents in the coaching realm. You strength and conditioning coaches, raise your hand if you recognize any of those names. That's recent history guys right there. Right? If you don't know those names, write them down. Does that mean everything that Mike Boyle says is true? No. What is he? He's a what? Change agent. He makes you get what? Uncomfortable. He makes you squirm in your seat a little bit. He doesn't come in and tell you that everything you're doing is exactly right. He's not afraid to say, we will never back squat again. Why do you think he's doing that? He's mixing it up. He's stirring the pot. He's breaking it. Are you with me? Gurus in the field, and I don't even know what to call these guys anymore. Anybody know who this guy is? Gray Cook. He's a therapist. I've known him for years. Now he's a guru. I mean, there's no word to describe what it is that he does. He's the father of the functional movement screen. Vern Gambetta, old school soccer performance coach in baseball. He's been everywhere. Now he's just a guru. He puts it all together. This guy's completely nuts. Paul Chek. Anybody know who Paul Chek is? Completely crazy, right? Crazy in a good way, though, isn't he? Absolutely. I can't stand Paul Chek. But I love that I can't stand Paul Chek, because he makes me kind of go, what are you talking about? It gets me excited, and I want to debate with him. That's stimulating. There's people in my profession that when Paul Chek gets up and talk at NSCA, you know what they do? They leave. They leave. They're lacking the innovation bone, right? Seek out those people that disagree with you. his concepts on long-term athletic development is completely opposite to my theory. So I can either say, Paul, you're a complete idiot, or I can seek to understand, Paul, why are you saying that? Why are you saying that? Where does growth exist? On the humility side of me saying, I want to seek to understand Paul Check. Okay? These are cool folks, the specialists. Anybody recognize these names? Who do you recognize? Danny Arnold, great friend of mine, great guy. Verstegen, the father of performance training, right? That's why we have the term performance training. Mark coined that term. He's a genius. He's a genius marketer as well. Great dude, unbelievable dude. He's into boxing now. He does a lot of his boxing training now. He's an unbelievable guy down in Houston. Martin Rooney at Parisi Speed School. Now he's got his own company, mixing CrossFit with performance training. It's a cool. These guys are. They're my idols, man. They're the pioneers out there. And these guys are my age or younger. I've known him for twice as long as I've known the guy at the top of the room there, and he still motivates me. He's a pioneer in this field. He makes me better. Find those people in your field. Today's performance training, again, it's different for different people. Here's a quick video. Hopefully this plays. And no offense to Baylor. I just pulled this off of Kaz Kazadi, as a Baylor strength coach. And to some people, this is what performance training is. It's getting up at 6 a.m. It's this. It's rah, let's get in here, let's work hard, let's have a great session. You know that. That's performance training, right? Is that part of performance training? Part of it is, yeah. Part of it is. I know what Kaz is up against right here. He's driving discipline. He's driving accountability. He's getting some motivation, some team continuity. He's also getting guys stronger and in shape. I get it. Would the sports scientist at Man United be good in this field right here that he's doing? Oh, gosh. By himself? No. But that scientist, the guy that's very aseptic and wants to really drive data and this and that, and perfect technique and all that, could be of great benefit to Kaz because Kaz is open-minded enough to involve that person into his program. Okay? But that's just one small facet of what sports performance training is all about. There's all kinds. You guys use YouTube. If you've got a system to put stuff into, go to YouTube. Check your system. Pull up something that you think looks pretty cool and see if you can figure out where it fits in your system. We do it all the time. We call it plinkoing. Our coaches will sit around and we'll throw an exercise or a modality up on the wall and see where it fits MJP. What level does it fit? What part? Is it in our dynamics? Is it our speed work? Is it power? Is it regeneration? Is it metabolism? Where does it fit? Okay? And so watching some of YouTube, this is Ndamukong Suh training with us, and Ndamukong tested my systems. He really tested my systems because he blew some of my numbers of what I conceptually thought was possible out of the water. On day 2 and 3, I'm having to rewrite some of what I thought was, you can't do that. Why? How can you do that? That doesn't fit my little model. I better have a system that's adaptable for a freak like that walks in. Because he's a freak. He's a 1 in 1 bazillion freak. And so is that guy I work for, Michael Johnson, by the way. Those guys are freaks, right? You better have a system that's adaptable. Whether you're a therapist, a strength coach, or a researcher, or whatever. Not everybody fits in a box. So all these different trends start to come out. You've seen toys like stability balls and Bosu balls and all that. If you have a system, you can start to arrange where these things fit. Doing the squats on the on the stability ball. Anybody know who Juan Carlos Santana is? Yeah? I remember in '92, he did a power clean, or hang clean off of a stability ball with 205. And as a young strength coach, I'm thinking, yeah. It blew out his ACL, that's exactly right. So part of me's like, yeah, that's what I need to be doing. Does that fit my system? Ethical, effective, efficient. I'm having a hard time. I'm even having a hard time with the science of that too. I'm really having a hard time with that one. But there's very few of those examples that I come across. In most cases, there's somewhere along the lines that something's going to fit into our system. Okay? So you get an idea of all these different things. The term prehab, medicine balls, cable machines. These are all old school things that are now back to new school, right? Modern weightlifting involving accelerometers and bands. Neuromuscular prep, what is that? My guy Verstegen hired a girl by the name of Sue Falzone, who's a PT, and she coined that term. Let's use some of the things that we're using in therapy to treat injuries to actually cause prevention of injuries. Let's build that into the performance training industry. That's recent history. That's within the last 10, 15 years, last 15 years, 13 years ago to be exact. And now it's standard, right? Myofascial release. You guys heard about myofascial release and foam rolling. Where did foam rolling come from? The physical therapy profession. 14 years ago, Feldenkrais. Google it. Okay? Integration, innovation. It's exciting. Dynamic warm-up. Are you kidding me? They've been doing that in the military for years. Nutrition. Did you realize there's different types of carbohydrate? That there's these heavier carbohydrates. Did you realize these different nutrient timings can completely change your metabolism, both pre and post? Gosh, I didn't. I didn't 5 years ago. Krista Austin, by the way, is now part of our staff, one of the top nutritional physiologists in the world. And she's making me cry in my beer at night because I thought I figured everything out, right? And she's coming in and breaking stuff right and left. That's stupid, Lance. Why are you doing that? I love that. Come on. Baste me in some of that knowledge, baby. Ain't going to hurt my feelings at all, man. I'm in a great space. I want to learn. Okay. Core training. There's that term, core training. Corrective exercises for you NASM folks. So what's the future? Clothing. We're working with Nike right now on some unbelievable projects. They're building a lab in my facility, $1 million lab in my facility, 2 full-time researchers, and all they're going to do is study our athletes' training to try to develop the next great shoes. Free shoes were developed from our facility, some of the research that came out of our facility. And if you turn your Nikes over, you're probably going to see this weird sort of spline up the bottom of your shoe. Free got into that shoe from some of the research that came from our athletes. Compression clothing, technology we talked about, sensory training. Gosh, I wish we had time to talk about sensory training. Training the brain. Long-term athletic development systems. I know some of you guys have questions about that, and we can get into some of those slides with those questions. So having a system to train the 9-year-old. What's good for a 9-year-old is not good for a 12-year-old, or not best practice for a 12-year-old. How you train a 12-year-old to really optimize your results, to really put the crosshairs on results. You got to do some specific things. You got to be better than better. Data management and tracking, GPS, accelerometry data, readiness, regeneration. I've got a device right now that I'm going to be able to twitch somebody's index finger and in 3 seconds be able to tell them what workout should they do. A hard workout, a moderate workout, or an easy workout because of their recoverability from the previous day's training. What? That didn't exist 6 months ago, guys. Where did it come from? Exercise physiology labs. Muscle physiologists like my mentor, Dr. Michael Bembin in the University of Oklahoma. People that are in the labs with the lab coats doing the grind. And some of you guys are going to be those folks. It's an exciting space, right? It is for me. It is for me. So, my final slide. Who's going to be the next practical scientist? Who's going to be the person that changes, is the next pioneer that I got to put up on that slide? It's not going to be me. I'll be the first to admit I'm the biggest hack in the world. I steal from everybody. I have no original bones in my body. I cheat. I learn from those that are smarter than me. I learn from their mistakes, and I try not to make those same mistakes in my practice. Some of you guys in this room are going to be innovators, and I'm excited to have shared a little bit of kind of the glimpse of what was, the glimpse of what will become in our profession, but ultimately, you guys are you're the young blood. You're the next generation. You guys are the ones that are going to drive our profession one way or the other. And when I'm old and even grayer than I am now, I hope to be putting some of you guys up on my slides and saying, hey, thank you for your innovative thoughts. Thank you for thinking that term outside the box. Not even thinking about a box. Okay? But that's what it's going to take. It's what it's going to take for us as a profession to go from good to great. And I really believe, guys, that's the kind of thinking that's going to take you from good to great. Don't be satisfied with good. Please don't. Good in our profession, unfortunately, is apathy. Apathy will get you by. And we've got too much of that right now. Okay? And I thank you guys for your time and hearing me out on that. Thank you very much.